A Russian attack gunship firing at Ukrainian forces from the air in the Kursk region inside Russia. While on the ground, a Russian soldier's body cam records what appear to be several killed Ukrainians near their destroyed armored vehicle. The Kremlin trying to show its forces are halting Ukraine's advances. But the reality is this: more Russian civilians having to evacuate their towns and villages as Kiev's troops press ahead. We left the chickens at home, this woman says. We gave them 2 bags of grain, some water, and left. Maybe there will be nothing to return to. What seemed to be Russian prisoners of war transported in a Ukrainian pickup, as a Ukrainian soldier spray paints the Ukrainian spelling of a town's name inside Russia. Kiev's lightning offensive caught not just its allies off guard, but Moscow as well. Russian President Vladimir Putin trying to publicly brush off Ukraine's incursion, meeting with the head of the Palestinian Authority in Moscow after earlier berating his generals to oust Kiev's troops from Russian soil.
The main task for the Ministry of Defense is, of course, to drive and squeeze the enemy out of our territories.
Russia has vowed a massive retaliation, and Kiev fears Moscow could launch even larger missile strikes at Ukrainian cities, but Ukraine's president vowing not to back down.
Russia needs to be forced into peace, especially if Putin is so set on fighting.
And Vladimir Putin's grip on power may not be as strong as some believe. Russian opposition activist Vladimir Kara-Murza, who was recently released from a Russian jail in a prisoner swap, said on CNN's Out Front.
I don't only think, I don't only believe, I know that Russia will change and I will be back in my homeland. And as I told him, it's going to be much quicker than you ever think.
But for now, Moscow says it will bring more reinforcements to its southwestern regions to try and oust Ukraine's invasion force before it can dig in. Ukrainian troops sweeping through Russian territory. Dear Ukrainians, this soldier starts and then says his forces went into a Russian supermarket, but that Ukrainian stores have a better selection.
Slava Ukraini!
Videos released of several areas inside Russia showing Ukraine soldiers taking down Russian flags and raising Ukraine's. And while the Kremlin claims its forces have held up Ukraine's advances in some areas, posting videos of bombed-out alleged Ukrainian vehicles, the numbers the Kremlin does admit are staggering. Almost 30 villages under Ukrainian control, more than 120,000 Russian civilians evacuated in the Kursk region alone, and more under evacuation orders in Belgorod region to the south. Russian President Vladimir Putin irate, vowing to respond while ripping into Ukraine and its Western allies.
It appears that the enemy, with the help of its Western masters, is fulfilling their will, and the West is fighting us with the hands of the Ukrainians. So, it looks like the enemy is seeking to improve its negotiating position for the future. The enemy will certainly receive a worthy response, and all our objectives will undoubtedly be achieved.
All this as Russia and Ukraine blame each other for what appears to be a major fire at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in southern Ukraine, an area under Russian control. So far, no increased radiation levels have been detected. Kiev has published little information about its offensive into Russian territory, but Ukraine's president justifying the incursion.
From the beginning of this summer and only from the Kursk region, our Sumy region suffered almost 2,000 strikes. Artillery, mortars, drones. We also monitor every missile strike, and each such strike deserves a fair response.
And it seems Ukraine's response is not over yet, even as Moscow scrambles to prevent further loss of territory. Fred Pleitkin, CNN, Berlin.